Good evening, I'm Tatiana Sanchez in the GB newsroom. Labour's calling for an investigation after claims the BBC chairman helped Boris Johnson secure a loan of up to £800,000 weeks before he was put forward for the job. A warning, the following contains flashing images. The party has written to the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards. Following a report, Richard Sharp helped arrange a loan for the then Prime Minister. According to the Sunday Times, Mr Sharp introduced multi-millionaire Canadian businessman Sam Blythe, who allegedly offered to act as Mr Johnson's guarantor, to the Cabinet Secretary shortly before he was recommended by the government for the role of BBC chair. A spokesperson for the former Prime Minister has dismissed the report as rubbish. Former Chancellor Nadhim Zahawi has sought to address questions over his tax affairs following reports he paid a penalty as part of a multi-million-pound tax settlement. In a statement, the Conservative Party chairman said the HMRC accepted he made a careless but not deliberate error in relation to the sale of shares in YouGov. That's the polling company he founded. Mr Zahawi has been under pressure following claims he tried to avoid paying tax, and Labour have said his position is untenable. Stagecoach founder Dame Anne Gloag has strongly disputed what she calls malicious allegations made against her after being charged with human trafficking offences. Police Scotland says 3 other people, understood to be members of her family, were also charged on Thursday in connection with alleged immigration offences. Ms Gloag denies the allegations made against her and her family. Peru has closed its famous tourist site, Machu Picchu, indefinitely following nationwide protests. People across Peru have been taking part in violent anti-government clashes, which have killed dozens of people over the past few weeks. In the capital, Lima, police officers used tear gas to try to control demonstrators throwing glass bottles and stones. Protests began after the previous leader of Peru was ousted. And Buckingham Palace has revealed details for the plan of the King's coronation weekend from the 6th to the 8th of May. The palace says the coronation of the King and Queen consort will take place at Westminster Abbey on Saturday, followed by a balcony appearance joined by other members of the royal family. A concert will be held at Windsor Castle on the Sunday. Thousands of events are expected to take place all over the UK over that weekend, with a bank holiday declared for the Monday. TV, online and DAB Plus radio. This is GB News. Now it's over to headliners.
Hello, I'm Leo Kirsten. Welcome to Headliners. Joining me to inject some levity to Saturday's headlines are Diane Spencer and Dan O'Reilly, aka Dapper Laughs. First, let's get acquainted with Sunday's front pages, and we start with the Sunday Telegraph. It has refugees and NHS at the heart of a diverse coronation. We'll hopefully see Ngozi Fulani make an appearance at that for maximum diversity, dressed as Fred Flintstone again. The Observer has Zahawi fighting for his political life after admitting a tax error. Hey, we all make a few mistakes. What's 3.7 million between friends? Anyway, the Sunday Mirror has Prince Harry spun a tale over his tailspin. Some lies detected there, apparently. The Sunday Times has, it's like the First World War. If we kill them, they're just replaced. I think they're talking about the Ukraine war there. The Sunday Express has, the King wants coronation to bring joy. Well, what else would he want it to bring? Misery. The Sunday Star has, it's the way the cookie crumbles. And those were your front pages. And let's look at those front pages. We begin with the Observer, Diane.
OK, so this leads with Zahawi fights for his political life after admitting tax error. And let's all remember, it was careless, not deliberate, guys. It's only £3.7 million. What are you talking about? So I've tried to wrap my head around this. Essentially, Zahawi co-founded the polling company YouGov, and he never owned shares. However, 42.5% of that company shares were held by Baltimore, I believe it's called Bolshoi Investments, which is, obviously in Gibraltar, because that's not ever a big red flag that says tax evasion here, you know, you might as well just investigate everything that's lodged in Gibraltar. And people who work in a think tank called Tax Policy Associates estimate he may have avoided £3.7 million in capital gains tax. Now, you see, Zahawi is saying, no. I'm not a beneficiary of Balshore Investments, but it is run by his parents.
Well, yeah, but that's his parents. Why is he on the hook for tax if it's...
I am not sure. Like, it all seems very murky, and he's made this very carefully worded statement where he doesn't admit that there has been an error, and they're sort of saying there was a careless... But it's just a bit murky.
He has paid them a lot of money, multi-million pound sum. Yeah, that's incredible. Dan, I can understand, you know, a comedian or a plumber or someone doing their self-assessment. A lot of them are doing it right now. I can understand them making a small error, maybe forgetting, you know, 60 quid they stuffed down the back of the couch. But I mean, this is the ex-chancellor of the Exchequer, and before that he worked in finance, and I've no doubt he's got accountants. So how can he be making these errors?
Because he's trying to nick the money, basically. He's trying to nick the money, and look, they don't wear seatbelts, they don't pay their taxes, they go on, I'm a celebrity. I mean, I'd never wanted to be a politician in my life, but now I'm looking at this stuff, I'm thinking it looks like it's good fun and you make a bit of dough. But look, like you said, he's got loads of people that are going to be helping him and advising him, and the thing we most scrutinise has got to be them paying their taxes and what they're doing with their money. So for him to make an error means he was trying to do something wrong. That's what I'm saying.
Right, yeah. So, you'll be hearing from his legal team shortly.
No. Am I not allowed to say it like that? Oh, dear.
Anyway, moving on to the front page of the Telegraph, Dan.
Yes, so refugees and the NHS are at the heart of the diverse coronation. So King Charles is to put refugees and the NHS to be a focal point for the three-day celebration designed to reflect a modern, multicultural Britain. A coronation choir made up of amateur singers is going to represent the voices and the faces. There's going to be LGBTQ plus groups, deaf singers. Everyone's going to be there. It's going to be fantastic. Signers, not deaf singers.
I was really looking forward.
Woo! Yes,
the deaf singers.
But they must
all out in different keys.
There must be, and dyslexic people that can't read will hopefully be represented there as well. But yeah, basically, put it this way: everyone's going. It's going to be a great party, and it's going to represent how wonderful and beautiful the UK is right now.
Yeah, Diane, are you looking forward to this?
It's going to be sort of the Olympics Mark II, which is what they're sort of touting it as. I don't know if they're going to get Danny Boyle involved. I mean, when it says refugees, I can understand the NHS.
Yeah.
The refugee thing seems a little strange to me, especially because the royal family have a habit of doing things on boats. I'm just a little bit worried about the refugee element if they're going to do something on boats.
You think they're going to have Channel migrants floating up the Thames?
Going, we're so happy you're a king.
And I wonder if you'll be letting them into some of his palaces and houses, Clarence
He's
House.
got room, you know. He's got room. I reckon he could
room
take in a couple of Ukrainian refugees as well. He could probably house some people, at least a couple.
Yeah, that's something for Prince Charles, or King Prince Charles to think about it. I can't get past calling him Prince Charles. I'm a conservative. I don't like change. Anyway, next we're looking at the front cover of the Mirror, Diane.
Yes, well, two things drew my eye. Number one, Beyoncé versus Madonna, the battle of the divas. I'm sorry, but Madonna has been around for so long. Can you really step up to the plate? But it's Beyoncé, who knows? But the other thing that we're going to look at is Harry spun a tail over tailspin. So you're not going to believe this, but it appears that some recollections may vary. Where have we heard that before? In Harry's book, Spare Change, Harry is saying he details being trained to be an Apache helicopter pilot. And he says, I felt the left wing dip, a sickening feeling of disorder. And then he says, was this an aborted suicide attempt? I mean, mate, that is not what you want to think when you're being trained how to fly an Apache helicopter, that your instructor is so bored by your presence, he's decided to end it all. I mean, that's how I felt when I was watching the blooming Netflix thing. I thought halfway through, I'm just going to top myself. I can't watch the rest of this. So, but the helicopter pilot, joking aside, the helicopter pilot has said, that's not what happened.
Right.
Yeah.
So Harry is the helicopter pilot actually said that we'd go through all the manoeuvres, all the little stunts and things we'll be doing beforehand.
You think you would?
And Harry just talked it up for the book to make himself look a bit braver.
Yeah, well, you know what it's like. He's admitted to doing drugs. When you do a bit of cocaine, the stories come flying out, don't they? So you know, we've all been in the kitchen and told helicopter stories. Well,
but I mean, this could just be his own personal truth. Because they don't seem, Harry and Meghan, they don't seem focused on telling the actual truth. They just want to tell their own personal truth.
it's just the best PR ever to sell a book, hasn't it? It's been going on for months. It's brilliant. I
Yeah, it's
think.
on the cover of every single newspaper. It seems to be working. At first day sales of 400,000.
Wow.
If you're Nadine Zahawi, you can maybe calculate the tax on that. But I mean, that was across. It was across like Kindle and across ebooks and things like that, which don't really count. It's like downloads on Spotify.
When you say their own personal account, do you mean like a very over-emotional telling of factual events? Because everything seems to be like infused with this like saccharine kind of, it's so over the top. It's so, I felt every moment when I was in the Apache. It's like, well, good mate. The other people were training as well and they were going, oh, what's that button do? Like everything seems to be so emotionally charged for Harry in this book.
Yeah, it does. I mean,
Could be his ghostwriter jazzing it up. Do you know what I mean? I doubt he actually sat there and done it. They probably said, "Look, that was great about the helicopter thing, but let's."
I get a feeling from the excerpts I've read from this book, which have all been, I haven't paid for anything. It's all been in newspapers. I think you can read the whole thing in various newspapers if you cobble together the stories. But it seems like the ghostwriter is on commission. He's getting a cut of each book sold.
He must be.
He is really over-egging it to I mean, everything. The bit about him rubbing Elizabeth Arden cream on his penis.
And it reminded him of his mum. I mean,
and he did the audio for his for the audio book as well. I mean, that is.
Well, I'm glad it reminded him of his mum and not anyone else in his family. I'll leave that there. You can fill the gaps.
As you can do with that cream as well. Anyway, we finish with the Star, Diane.
Yes, so Generation Z are ditching their biscuits for samosas with their covers.
Wow.
Apparently, it's the way that sort of the new generation eat. Apparently, it's sort of they don't want to sit down for 3 square meals a day, so they're having sort of larger, healthier snacks, more savoury snacks. And it means that, you know, the tradition of sort of when you have a little break, having a nice little custard cream or a bourbon. I don't know what's your favourite. With your cup of tea, it's going out the window. The younger generation, because they're not going to have a big lunch, they'll have a slightly bigger snack and they'll go for something savoury. So samosas are on the up.
But are samosas actually healthy? I mean, they seem they're deep fried. They don't seem it's all that pastry.
I must admit, whenever I get a samosa, the bag it's usually in, it's sort of the very greasy little bag. I mean, I do love them.
I think any food that can turn paper see-through probably isn't a health food.
No, but I love samosas. I can eat them all day long. I'm not sure if I'd dip them in my tea.
Oh, that's disgusting.
I do dip my toast in my tea, though. I don't know if you do that.
What do you put on your toast, though?
Just butter and dip it in the tea. I like that, but I wouldn't do that. But yeah, I'm a fan of samosas, just so you know.
Right. Well, you like to make some most of it. Anyway, that's it for part 1. Coming up in the second section, we're cooking with gas, with Russian spies and transgender athletes. I'll see you in a couple of minutes.
This year on GB News, we've got brand new members in the family.
Join us. Across the entire United Kingdom, we cover the issues that matter to you.
GB News will always stay honest, balanced and fair. We want to hear whatever is on your mind.
And we don't talk down to you.
The establishment had their chance.
Now we're here to represent you.
Britain's watching. Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice, We are here for you on radio, television, and online. Across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners with me, Leo Kearse. I'm joined by two very talented and very well-dressed comedians, Diane Spencer and Dan O'Reilly, a.k.a. Dapper Laughs. Anyway, The Observer now and MI5 refused to investigate Russia trying to buy influence in the Tory party, possibly because the investigation would just contain a series of progressively smaller scandals. Dan, you've got this one?
Yeah, it's something out of a Bond movie here. The MI5 refuses to investigate Russian spy links to the Tories, says whistleblower. MI5 repeatedly refused to investigate evidence that allegedly linked the Russian spies with attempting to influence conservative politicians. Basically, the Russians, they're saying that the Russians have got in, they're putting money into the Tories and stuff like that, and yeah, they don't want to investigate it. And here's us worrying that, the Russians were going to nuke us or something to destroy the country. They didn't need to do that. All they needed to do was give some money to the Tories, and the Tories are doing it. So there we are. But no, MI5 refused to look into it, which makes me think that it's probably nothing then, isn't it? Otherwise, it's kind of their job to look into this stuff.
Or possibly they've given money to MI5.
Oh, no.
That's another way of looking at it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not really a Bond film. Like, what, The Spy Who Ignored Me?
Actually, the film would be rubbish, wouldn't it?
It would be really bad because Bond absolutely does nothing. And unfortunately, the person who went to report this, a man called Sergei Christo, he's a Conservative Party activist and a former journalist with BBC World.
Ooh.
He actually leaked it to The Guardian, but he only went to The Guardian because he went to MI5 and he said, look, there is this Russian diplomat called Sergei Nalobin who since then has been, by the way, expelled from Estonia on espionage charges.
Has he fallen out of a window yet in Moscow?
No. Do you know what? There's windows that they fall out of in Moscow, and also there is a car park in Kingston that Russian business people tend to fall off as well. Yeah, I know. You have to have an umbrella when you walk under that one. But so he was offering to sort of give money to the Conservatives, and then they could make introductions to Russian companies and the rest of it. And so he went to MI5 and he said, look, this is happening. And first of all, there was a junior agent who went, and he was like, OK, that's not good. So then this guy, Christo, then wrote to the head of MI5 in your Bond film, M, literally wrote to M saying, look, there's an issue. And then they had a meeting and said, look, Christo said, do you want me to wear a wire when I go meet this guy? And MI5 just went, nah, just don't talk to him. It's like, that's not even gossip. That's not spying. That's nothing. It's like, that to me is so wrong that MI5 did that.
Right. So you think MI5 should have been straight in there with the undercover wires? I mean, I'd have thought there's a lot of foreign influence, a lot of foreign money in politics. And the left have come out, the Labour Party have come out and said this needs to be investigated. This is a scandal. Yeah. But I mean, Corbyn went on cycling holidays in the Soviet Union. And he's taking money. He's taking money from Iran, but I know I hate to tar the whole Labour Party with somebody they've expelled, but
yes.
But I mean, there is money. I mean, I think it's an open secret. There's money sloshing around in politics that isn't always from the finest sources with the finest of intentions.
Yeah, totally. And when you have somebody who's trying to raise alarm flags, you have to ask the question, why did MI5 not respond?
Yeah. Maybe they're on strike as well. Maybe it's the next wave of public sector strikes.
I mean, but it's not even trying to find out the gossip. Like, my mum would have done a better job than this. If you went to my mum and said, that guy, we think he's a bit dodgy, she'd be like, right, I'm on it. Like, she'd have been sat next to him. She'd have got his whole life story in about an hour.
Right, so we need to get your mum in MI5. That's what I've learned from this. Anyway, the Sunday Telegraph now has a revelation that will shock anyone who's had to deal with the public sector. Apparently, the NHS is failing because of pointless, endless bureaucracy, Diane.
You are not going to believe this. So the Telegraph say Dr. Caldwell says the horribly inefficient paperwork around patients is moving in and out of the wards is fueling the NHS delays. So Dr. Gordon Caldwell, who is now retired, he used to be a diabetes endocrinology consultant. He has this campaign, and what he does is he takes photographs of the amount of paperwork he has to fill in next to himself to sort of demonstrate, because he's not a short man, he's 5'10". So he sort of takes photographs of himself next to all these bits of paper to say, this is how much we have to fill in. And this is coming at a time when obviously we have massive delays in getting people out and into hospital. So the latest figures show almost 6 in 10 patients who were well enough to be discharged were stuck.
So these are patients who are well enough to go home.
Yeah.
60% of patients in the hospitals are well enough to be discharged and go home, but they're not because of this paperwork, because of just bureaucratic logjams.
Because what happens is that when they have an issue come up, he says, we don't want anybody to have complications, but what they do is they invent a new form. Instead of kind of putting the complication in with an existing form to streamline the process, they just generate a new form. And this is kind of an example of just too much paperwork. And you know how they're saying, oh, we're digitising in NHS, that'll help. It's not, because now it means you've just got a load of doctors filling in the same paperwork, but on a computer now.
Right, and there's systems that don't talk to each other, so it's just recreated the paper forms in a digital sense, instead of this, smooth system that everything's integrated. And it sounds like, when they have a new condition or something that they need to record, instead of adding it to the form like you suggested, you've got to fill in the name, the NHS number, the address, all those details
all of that again,
and then the condition, which must absolutely do people's nuts in. This apparently a few years ago, there were estimates that nurses were spending around 50% of their time doing paperwork, which sounds ridiculously high as it is. And now it's closer to 70%, which doesn't leave much time left for rolling people over and giving them a wipe.
They should just give them their badge and their gun and send them outside. Let them do their job.
Yeah.
Is this nurses? So, because it also happens in the police, doesn't it, as well?
Yeah. Dan, what do you think of this?
Well, I've been up to the hospital recently with my children, and it's ridiculous the amount of paperwork. The thing is, they're so worried about what they getting things wrong that you've got to literally answer loads and loads and loads and loads of stuff. Once you're in, then they won't let you go until you've answered loads and loads more stuff. So it's a massive, massive waste of time, massive backlog, and I don't know, when you're saying that nurses spend 50% of their time on paperwork, you think to yourself, well, maybe there should be people doing that for them, but they've already got loads of people in there, your equality staff, diversity staff, you've even got people working in the car parks there, and it's all money going down the drain. It looks like it's just a mess, doesn't it?
It looks like an absolute mess.
Yeah.
Spending 70% of their time doing paperwork, that is an absolute nonsense. Anyway, more public sector potential mayhem. Now, The Independent is reporting on the latest nanny state intervention. Now you're cooking with gas, but you soon won't be, because the government is coming for our gas stoves, Dan. Yeah,
cooking with gas is worse for your health than living in a polluted city, according to new research. So gas stoves produce nitrogen dioxide, and it's dangerous. It's more dangerous than the toxins found in traffic fumes. Irritates the lungs, gets into the bloodstream. So we've got to pay a fortune for our gas, and then it's going to kill you. That's basically what this story is about. But what they've done, they were doing some research, and they got some children to wear these special pollution monitors on their backpacks, right?
Right.
So to in different areas to see what the pollution was like. And what they found was they were going out and walking around when they were meant to be registering the pollution, but when they come back to the house to sit down to have their dinner, it was actually their mum that was causing the most pollution by cooking their food. And that's how they worked this thing out. So,
which is horrendous, because can you imagine the child that made the mistake to say, Mum, your food is the most polluting thing out of my whole day? That is a clip round the ear right there, don't you think?
So that's the story. So it just seems like everything at the moment is going to kill you.
Do you think they're sort of talking this up though? Because I've noticed, it's become the new thing. It's become the new face mask. Like gas stoves. Everybody's like, gas stoves, you gotta get rid of your gas stoves. I like cooking on gas, because it responds straight away. It's not like one of those rings that turns red over the course of 45 minutes.
Yeah.
You can finally maybe get muster enough heat to cook an egg on.
Hey, I mean, I don't mind that. I mean, I'm happy to stand there for 45 minutes. So I wonder whether this is something to do with Russia. I do wonder that, because obviously we get 4% of our gas. Well, we got in 2021, we got 4% of our gas was imported from Russia.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether this is part of the whole kind of overarching net zero thing, where now we've got this bad story about the gas stoves coming out. And so it's another way of shaping populations, because if they bring this out, then they can get some heat behind it. And then they can say, right, now nobody can have gas stoves because they're dangerous for pollutants.
Right.
And there is actual scientific evidence here, unlike Sadiq Khan, the lying sheriff of London, and his manipulation of the ULEZ information. Just had to get that in there because I don't like him.
So Russia should have been bribing British Gas and some scientists who put backpacks on children. That
Definitely.
Instead of politicians. I don't know. I don't like moving to an all electric system, because then if there's a power cut, you can't cook an egg, and you're never going to be able to light a cigar from an electric stovetop. Anyway, the Sunday Mirror now, and some good news for women like me, Diane.
Oh, for goodness sake. So the headline is, transgender athletes to be allowed to compete against women in new world athletics rules. So sports chiefs are all now having to come up with sort of their stance on the trans athlete and where they fit into their existing categories. And World Athletics have been doing their consultation, and this is a confidential consultation which has been leaked. So let's just underline that. This is not what they're going to set in stone yet, but this is what they've been chatting about. And they have decided that they are going to tighten the regulations on trans athletes, in that they're going to reduce the amount of testosterone that you can have in your bloodstream to sort of half, and they're going to...
A womanly level.
And then double the length of time that you need to have that lowered measure on. And that's what they're saying. So that's what they're thinking about at the moment, because they also want to take into account athletes who have got differences of sexual development, such as people like Caster Semenya. So Caster Semenya is a woman. She's just a woman who has been born with I don't know exactly what her thing is, but I know that she is a very powerful woman with a lot of testosterone.
She's got through a genetic difference. She produces more testosterone than your average Sheila. So so she's dead good at sports.
She's really good at running.
The scientific way of putting it.
Yeah. And so that's what's happening here. But of course, this is relevant because there are lots of different sports who have decided to take a different road. Like, for example, I think it's the triathlon that have just changed the name of the men's category to open.
So it lets anybody compete in that category.
So,
Dan, what do you think of this? I mean, isn't there a risk that women's sports, if transgender men are able to compete in them, and to be a transgender women are able to compete in them, and to be a transgender woman, you just need to say, I'm a woman, in Scotland, for example. Isn't there a risk that it'll just become a sort of retirement community for mediocre male athletes?
My God, I'm just terrified to even talk about this, mate. It's absolutely, it's mental, isn't it? My thinking is, and this might just be a really simple way and a dumb way of putting it, but why in the first place would they have put men and women separately in these things to compete if they didn't think that there was a difference in fairness?
Yeah.
And look, I'm not looking, if they let this happen across the board, I'm not looking forward to the boxing. Because, do you know what I mean? It's going to kick off in a bad way.
It's already happened. There's Fallon Fox, an MMA fighter, shattered... so the transgender MMA fighter shattered a woman's orbital bone in her face fighting her. The woman said she'd never been punched like that. She'd never felt a force, a strength like that because, obviously going through male puberty gives athletes and fighters certain benefits. You get bigger bones, greater bone density, greater strength. It's easier to parallel park outside the stadium. There's lots of things.
It's not just, but it's interesting because it's not just about testosterone, but that's what they seem to be taking it to.
Right.
Testosterone in the amount of testosterone in the length of time that you're on it, but there are other factors which this consultation doesn't consider, but it's not in stone yet.
Well, like the development of your body,
the bone
prior
density,
to the,
like you
to the
said.
transition.
Why don't they just have like a transgender division or like a non-binary or whatever?
Like the Brit Awards. That worked great. Anyway, to the Mail now. And a recent surge in a medical condition has experts concerned that it's being overdiagnosed. We're not talking about transgender children. This is ADHD, Dan.
Yeah, is ADHD being overdiagnosed or has it just been neglected for years? Top experts weigh in on the debate as an ever-growing catalogue of celebrities share their battle with the crippling mental disorder. Top mental health experts believe the knock-on effects of COVID and the pandemic and the lockdown may be to blame. Others credit the never-ending reel of celebrities milking it and publicly revealing their battle with the disorder. And I'd just like to say I'm one of them celebrities or Z-listers or social media people that has been talking about my journey into finding out about ADHD online. So, I'd have to hold my hands up to that. But they're saying that, is this a trend or is there genuinely a surge of ADHD? And I think it's a little bit of both, to be completely honest with you. I didn't know I had ADHD. Everyone else around me seemed to work it out, but I didn't really know what was going on inside my mind, not being able to focus on things and stuff like that until I saw content about it online.
Right.
And I saw a lot of TikToks and stuff with loads of views, and I thought I'd get them. No, I saw TikToks and stuff with just sort of describing how it can feel to have ADHD and stuff like that, and I related to him. I went and got seen by a specialist, and she said I was a complete nutcase. So it worked.
Technically, what she said.
Yeah.
How much did you pay this lady?
Well, I've got ADHD. I weren't really paying attention, to be honest with you.
I was in a porta cabin.
I was going to say pub car park.
Yeah.
Like, when did you get diagnosed?
But this is the thing. I know people who've been diagnosed with ADHD, and it seems to be all right. We're comedians, so I think most comedians have got ADHD. That's why we're comedians instead of having a proper job. But in a lot of cases, you pay £600 for a private diagnosis, then you get free NHS grade speed on the NHS for as long as you want. That seems to be the
Yeah, but when you've got proper ADHD, the speeds really, it doesn't help. You just kind of mellow out. It's no good.
Yeah, although it's handy. I take it to do my tax return. So I don't know. I don't know if this is why like Nadine Zadawi was having trouble with his because he overdosed on it. But
Well, one thing that could be interesting is that because obviously it was only looked at as something that adults could have since 2008. So obviously there's been an increase in the adult psychiatrists saying, oh no, it can happen. And also apparently ADHD develops differently in men and women. It kind of comes out, you have a different way of expressing your ADHD with the different genders. And on one hand, it's great that there's so much of it out there because, like you said, there's a lot of information. You can look at it, and you can also seek help via the medium of YouTube. But the other issue is that there's a lot of people who are self-diagnosing, and I'm like, no, she's just late and she's a pain, and when I arrange to have a coffee with her, she needs to turn up and not tell me, oh, it's my ADHD. No, you're late, mate.
People are just using it
as an excuse.
Right, there we go. Anyway, that's it for part 2. Coming up in part 3, we're going to discuss a conspiracy theory school, the importance of learning to read a map, and deer carcasses. See you in a couple of minutes. Don't go away.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel. Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. We've got the Sunday Times now reporting on a school that I'd actually like to send my kids to, Diane.
Oh my gosh. So, Hope Sussex School trains next generation of conspiracy theorists. That's the headline. So this is very interesting. This is, now you can't say it's a school. And they describe themselves as a home education hub. And the reason is that they are not registered with the Department of Education. And Ofsted is investigating Hope Sussex because they haven't registered with the Department of Education. And they have a Telegram channel, which is your first big red flag if your school has a Telegram channel. And they have core subjects, including survivalism, foraging, welding, and shamanic practices. And they teach their lessons through the prism of conspiracy theory. So, for example, in a recent history lesson, they were taught that the US government knew in advance of the 9/11 attacks, and they discussed the possibility that the stars were not real and were, in fact, lights. That's novel. So this school...
Sense.
Yeah, this school was started by Sadie Single and her husband Matthew, who were expelled from the British National Party in 2009 for leaking the names and details of thousands of party members online after an internal dispute. Now, I'm sorry, but would you really trust your children to be educated by people who, if they have a disagreement with the group they're in, they are willing to dox the details of thousands of members online? Do you not think that's a little bit of an unstable pair of people to be educating children?
I think well, the whole thing about sending your kids to school these days is you're going to get some blue-haired gender ideologist who's going to pounce on your kid if he picks up a Barbie and send him to the Tavistock clinic to get spayed. Anyway,
but isn't this this is the exact extreme opposite though, because they're teaching about anti-vax, they're teaching about all sorts of things. They're saying that Pearl Harbor was known about before the attack happened.
Yeah. Dan, I mean, this just seems like basic facts.
Mate, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, I probably wouldn't have bunked off if I went to this school. I would have stayed. I would have been like, do you know what? This is quality. This is good for me. It's good for my ADHD. What's going on? But, I mean, look, half the conspiracy theories that are conspiracy theories that were conspiracy theories like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, are facts now, aren't they? Yeah. Anyway, so half the stuff that I read there was probably real. But no, it sounds like a bunch of nutters teaching a bunch of nutters kids.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Although I've got to say, so pupils are given lessons in survivalism, foraging, welding and shamanic practices, which actually sounds really useful.
Yeah, in central London.
All right, the stars, I don't believe the stars are lights. That might be, it's not just the space isn't just a bit of black cloth with a few Christmas tree lights in it. That's going a bit far. But this stuff, welding, I mean, I wish I'd learned that at school.
Do you know what? I was thinking about this the other day. They really need to, if you're going to teach kids maths until 18, just teach them how to do their tax return.
Oh, yeah.
Teach them how to, change the fuse in a plug. Put something useful in. And I can understand the practicality of this. But I don't like it when people focus on survivalism, because that suggests to me that they're not focusing on how to continue society. It says that they've already given up and they're like, now the apocalypse is coming, let's all learn how to skin a rabbit.
They've seen the writing on the wall. Anyway, the Metro now, and this story about people suffering on antidepressants actually cheered me up, Dan.
Really? Coming off antidepressants can be a terrifying prospect for many struggling with their mental health. According to the latest available statistics, more than 8 million people in the UK are prescribed antidepressants to help cope with depression or anxiety. Psychologists at Bath University are now working to improve help for people withdrawing from antidepressants and are recruiting volunteers to do a new study. Antidepressants withdrawal is hugely important and very understudied. So they've given loads of people antidepressants, the doctors have given them all, and they don't really know what's going to happen when you come off them. My thinking is you're probably going to end up depressed again when you come off them. So, you know, other things are probably a little... Well, I don't know.
You get side effects, like there's the zaps, they're called. So when you move your head, it's like a zapping feeling in your head.
But to me, it's really worrying that they haven't done a lot of research into this, and there's so many millions and millions of people on these antidepressants, and now they're going to get more people to go on them and then see how they are when they come off them. So
they're going to study more. I don't think they're putting people on antidepressants just to study it, but they're going to study people who are being prescribed them.
But it sounds to me like more work for the NHS, which is fantastic.
More forms to fill in.
There you go.
Which might depress some people.
Yeah.
I mean, apparently, this isn't in this article, but 2/3 of the people on antidepressants are women. So I don't know.
Yeah, we have a lot to deal with, mainly because we're just fed up of like giving away all our sports trophies now. I mean, these are called selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Essentially, these antidepressants are because the person's brain, like once the serotonin has delivered a message, then gets reabsorbed.
Yeah.
And it's like, so you lose that happiness, that natural happiness feeling. So these drugs sort of stop the brain from doing that, and they allow the person whose brain does that to sort of continue and not be too sad. But what is very interesting is that, so this is Bath University, and they are currently looking for people who want to come off antidepressants, and they must have the support of their GPs. So if you're thinking about contacting Bath University and getting involved in this, because they do need people for the study, talk to your GP. Apparently another thing, this is a good time to do it, because when people come off their antidepressants, one person did say to me, they try to get people to do it in the summer months.
When people are happier.
Yeah, when it's sunny, it's warm, and you know, you feel generally a bit better about life. Yeah, so it's a good time.
Interesting. Anyway, the Sunday Telegraph now is reporting on a popular font that's discriminating against people, Diane.
Who knew? So the Telegraph goes with the headline, "Not our type. Home Office regards Times New Roman font as ableist." Now, I do find that slightly sensational headline, but I love the fact they did put it out in Times New Roman. So essentially, the Home Office has said that Times New Roman, because it is a serif font, which means that it has sort of the lovely little curly bits on the edges of the letters, it means that for some people this could be harder to read. Some people do argue, conversely, that the lovely little curly bits help you to sort of string the words together in your mind. But the issue I have is this is the Home Office. And if there is an emergency, I would like everybody to be able to read the document quickly. You know, I would prefer it if there weren't too many words in the document. If it's like a nuclear attack or something, I want people to be able to literally open and it says, press button 1, and they know what to do.
I would like the person who's in charge of that button to be able to read Times New Roman.
Yes, yeah.
They're at the Home Office.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I must admit, I'd be really embarrassed if, like, the Home Office were using Comic Sans.
Yeah, this is the thing. This is just the next step in our degenerate rush towards dumbing everything down. So it will eventually be in purple Comic Sans, like an A4 sheet that's been stuck to the parish hall notice board.
No, it's just that they need everybody to be able to read the document, and apparently italics are a bit difficult for some people with dyslexia and people who have like visual issues.
Dan, have you got any?
Not really. I just think it's weird that they spend so much time on this stuff, like when everything else is going on in this country, that there might be better things for them to do. But yeah, and I didn't realise they're cancelling words now on fonts, but fantastic.
All fonts, never mind language. Anyway, to the Mail now, and scientists have suggested a novel cure for dementia, getting hopelessly lost.
Yeah, so map reading, which uses your navigational skills and memory, could show the way to beat dementia. Turning off your GPS and using traditional maps instead could help fight dementia. Basically, it says that when you're orientating, using your brain to work these things out, navigational skills and movement and memory, it helps prevent cognitive decline. And they've done a lot of research into this. So basically they're saying, you know, if you get them to do these things, it may help. But personally, myself, my granddad, we lost my granddad to dementia, and my partner as well, her granddad had it, and it just seems like a really weird thing to do when you're dealing with someone with dementia, to go, here, do you want to read a map? Because it's going to confuse them even more.
Release them like a homing pigeon.
Yeah, and
try and get home, like bundle them out of the back of a transit van.
Yeah, I mean,
Here you go, 3 miles.
Yeah, it's not really going to be, if you're the family of someone that's suffering with dementia and your GP comes up to you and says, do you know what you want to do? This will help. Give them a map. Or you'd just be like, what are you going on about? It just seems weird.
Yeah, especially if that map is the way to take their medication. Like, this is where your pharmacy is, where your medication is. It's like, yeah, thanks, mate. That's really, you've kind of put me on a downward spiral there. I mean, I understand it, though. What they're trying to say, I think, in this article, is that you need to keep your brain active and giving yourself, like, puzzles to solve, like spatial puzzles and sort of recognising awareness. And I think it sort of emphasises that point that we've been told over and over again, use it or lose it. You have to keep your brain active as you get older. If you just allow yourself to sit there and vegetate, your brain will slowly vegetate with you.
Yeah. Watching headliners is a key part of that. Anyway, coming up, we've got, after the break, we've got the fun part, including how to be happy, which I think we all need after that section, how to be single for 20 years, which we probably don't need, and how you can become a zombie, which we definitely don't need. Anyway, we're going to have a recap of tomorrow's papers as well. We'll see you in a couple of minutes. Don't go away.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here. You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing! You remind me of me in the European Parliament.
But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. We're going to the Daily Mail now, and scientists believe that mushrooms could devour us from the inside out. Sounds like these scientists have been eating some special mushrooms themselves, Dan.
Yes, so listen, I don't know if you've seen I've seen this show, The Last of Us, right? It's about zombies and that, and the Daily Mail are saying that the infection is real, zombies are coming, we're all going to die, OK? If you're watching this new series, you may have thought that it was safe, but and it was just fictional, but there is a parasite that is based upon this fungi that grows within the host body, and it can control your behaviour, all right? This is actually true. There's a fungus that infects ants. Let me see what they called.
They crawl up to the top of the tree and they bite the tree
carpenter.
and they sprout the fungus.
Yeah, the carpenter ant, so it gets inside them, it controls them, makes them go up, and it's a real thing. And they're saying that basically, just like coronavirus and everything else, this could happen to the human race. But thank God the Tories are in control, so if it does happen, we'll be sorted. PPE, everything, ambulances, we'll be all right.
But also, we're in the middle of an obesity epidemic, so the kids won't be able to climb the trees and bite on. They might bite onto the leaves.
And they
might think it's,
won't be able to catch you. They won't be able to catch you, will they? If they get it,
If they are zombies.
This is an idea which has been around for a long time, because there was an X-Files episode where exactly this happened, where you had a fungus spore and the spore changed the mind of the person, and then the spore shot out of people's necks, and it was much more closely related to this ant fungus. And what's interesting is that one of the doctors that they consult about this, they say, so, could this happen? Could this happen? And this guy's like, no, I mean, it takes these things years to evolve. And I'm thinking,
years?
He said, years and years and years and years.
Like not 3 years.
No.
All right.
Millions. But the point is that he said, from it to go from fungus to humans would take forever. And I'm thinking, yeah, but didn't COVID go from bats to humans pretty quick?
It did. It did. We've got to stop. We've got to stop people eating mushrooms. That's how it transitioned into the human food chain. Anyway, we're going to the Mail again, and this time we're reporting on overseas fraudsters using technology to claim benefits in Britain. Possibly the most Daily Mail headline I've ever seen. Diane, you've got this one.
Yeah, well, this is quite interesting. It's almost like a good story, actually. The shameless Photoshop fails among £8.5 billion of bogus benefit claims. And it's how fraudsters are sending fake images to the Department of Work and Pensions officials to prove they live in the UK to keep the money flowing in. So during the pandemic, a lot of the rules were relaxed because a lot of people needed help. And so suddenly, of course, you have a lot of bad faith actors that suddenly try to pounce on this. But what happened?
Just actors, other professions were doing it as well.
Well, what happened was the DWP set up an enhanced review team, which is pretty nifty, and it had 1,000 employees, and they managed to stop claims that were equivalent to £2 billion. So they managed to sort of stop that amount of fraud happening, which is fabulous news, actually.
That's not fact. That means for that $2 billion to be caught, there has to be tens of billions going out there. And it annoys me. Anytime I read about benefit fraud in The Guardian, they always say, only 0.2% of benefits claimants are fraudulent. If it's only 0.2%, I must have known every single one of them.
But I thought this was quite a good thing that, they are catching people who are doing fraud. And the best part is they're catching them because they are clearly a little bit stupid. They're sending across these really badly photoshopped pictures. Sort of they've got the same green door in them all the time, or sort of they've blatantly just cut out an image. Here's one.
There's a picture. So this is somebody who's photoshopped himself into a picture of a traditional British terraced house. But he seems to just be floating in midair.
Look at the state of that one.
And she's done that. I didn't know you could get Photoshop for a Game Boy Color, but there we go. That is the least convincing Photoshop. Why have they blurred his trousers out?
That guy's standing on top of the car. What a nutter.
He's got no feet.
He's sort of inside the car. It's that's
a good one. Look at that. That's lovely.
That's
absolutely
amazing.
No shadows, because they have no soul, because they're trying to steal money from people.
I mean, Dan, this seems a shocking.
I've got
fraud. 8.5 billion pounds of bogus benefit cost.
Look, listen, I've got a different view on this. Times are hard. If you can nick a couple of quid by doing a bit of photoshopping,
they're not even in this. They're not even in this country.
Well,
looking at it from overseas.
Agree with Leo.
Do you know what I mean? It's what I call it's soft crime. They're not out robbing people. Do you know what I mean? I'm joking. I'm joking. You're terrible.
Anyway, to the Sunday Times now, and Dan, you had a dating advice show on TV. It was really good, by the way. Could you help this woman go in the pool?
No, I couldn't. She doesn't. She seems like she's past help, unfortunately. And I don't mean to be mean, but yeah, no. So look, she's been dating for 20 years and she's still single. She says, "I'm 38 next month. Not a particularly significant birthday, not a big one at a premium age."
Perennial.
Oh, sorry, my eyes have gone. But yeah, basically, I'll cut straight to it. For years and years and years, she's been dating. She's dated a variety of people, and she hasn't been able to find the one. And
it must be a nightmare.
Well, yeah, I think she's too picky. I think that's simply where we are. Look, and I just made a little list. I narrowed it down a little bit of the different people that she dated. For all of these years, she couldn't find the perfect match. She had a university tutor, but then she thought it was a bit of a cliche that he was talking about his work and stuff like that. I think a Welsh farmer, but she didn't like where he lived. A war reporter, but then she got the hump when he went off to war. So you know, all I'm saying is, you know, you can be a little bit picky sometimes. You don't see any men being picky, do you? We'll take anything. So you can learn a bit from that.
So that's your dating advice. Be less picky.
Yeah, just take what you can get.
Diane, would you agree with that?
Well, I read this, and I don't know her very well, but I mean, look at it, like, I think she talks a lot. Like, I could have summarised my dating history a bit quicker than that.
Yeah.
I mean, she seems, I guess the idea is that she's trying to sort of connect with other people and say, hey, you know, we've all got this different idea of what dating is, but she does seem to be a little, dare I say it, self-absorbed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she dated a comedian as well, apparently.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to work out who it was, but I just couldn't.
It's always a terrible idea. Anyway, here's a reminder before we go off air. Here's a reminder of the front papers for Sunday. We begin with the Telegraph. We've got the Sunday Telegraph, refugees and the NHS at the heart of a diverse coronation. We've got the Observer with Zahawi fighting for his political life after admitting a tax error worth possibly £3.7 billion, according to an analyst. That's a lot of money that could be spent on nurses, but isn't, or will be now, because he's finally coughed it up after the tax office got him in a headlock and made him hand it over. We've got the Sunday Mirror, and Harry spun a tail over a tailspin, according to his former trainer. We've got the Sunday Times saying it's like the First World War. If we kill them, they're just replaced. We've got the Sunday Express with King wants coronation to bring joy. We've got the Sunday Star with it's the way the cookie crumbles. And those were your front pages. And that's it for this evening. Thanks to my brilliant guests, Diane Spencer and Dan O'Reilly. Headliners is back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with me, Leo Kearse, hosting again with Josh Howie and Paul Cox. And if you're watching this at 5 a.m, then please stay tuned for the breakfast show coming up next. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.
This year on GB News, we've got brand new members in the family.
Join us. Across the entire United Kingdom, we cover the issues that matter to you. GB News will always stay honest, balanced and fair. We want to hear whatever is on your mind.
And we don't talk down to you.
The establishment had their chance.
Now we're here to represent you.
Britain's watching.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Deebs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh, my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. There's never been a more interesting but also critical time in British politics, and I can't wait to bring you the biggest stories of the day with the best factual accuracy and also a few of my own opinions thrown in. We'll engage in passionate but always polite debate with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Monday to Thursday, 10 till 12 on TV, on radio and online.
Good evening, lovely people, and welcome along once more to Neil Oliver Live on GB News TV and on radio. Coming up on tonight's show, I'll be speaking to Dr. Shankara Chetty, who has had great success treating COVID patients with readily available drugs. We'll talk about the rights and wrongs of AI, artificial intelligence technology, which could allow families to speak with virtual recreations of lost loved ones. Is cash making a comeback? We'll be discussing the news that cash withdrawals from banks and building societies appear to be on the rise. Plus, 2 amazing Great Britons and plenty of chat with my brilliant panellists, Jasmine Birtles and Jacob Reynolds. But first, an update on the latest news from Tatiana Sanchez.
Neil, thank you. This is the latest from the GB newsroom. Former Chancellor Nadhim Zahawi has sought to address questions over his tax affairs following reports he paid a penalty as part of a multi-million-pound tax settlement. In a statement, the Conservative Party chairman said the HMRC accepted he made a careless but not deliberate error in relation to the sale of shares in YouGov, the polling company he founded. Mr Zahawi has been under pressure following claims he tried to